welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. We're back on schedule, Q&A number 98. Apologies for not getting up a Q&A in time for last week. I was out in sunny Kalgoorlie here in Western Australia playing some shows. Thank you to everybody who came out. That was a whole bunch of fun. And we are so fortunate to be playing shows here in Western Australia. Speaking of which, by the time this video comes out, I will probably be at a show, Indie Bar in Scarborough. If you're in Perth and you're watching this, we're not until about 10:30, so you got a couple of hours to make up your mind and come down and actually see some live rock music. It would be awesome to see you there. All right, anything else? Nothing that I can really think about. Let's get straight into this week's questions. Let's start with a real juicy one. Does the price of a piece of gear affect the way I feel about it? This is a definite yes, but it's less about the price and more about the value proposition. And for something, say like a Soldano Hot Rod 50 Plus, you can see one sitting behind me, or a Boogie Mark IV, or an Axe FX3, they are not cheap pieces of gear. However, they're really, really good pieces of gear. And if you're in a position to spend the money on them, you're gonna get pretty good value for your money. Something like a Boogie Mark IV is really well built. You can pull a whole bunch of different tones from it. It's versatile. The things that it does well, it does incredibly well. The things that it doesn't do well, it still does pretty well. In that case, even though it's expensive, it's still a pretty good value proposition. If you were to pay a large amount of money for a product that is maybe unreliable or not versatile, or it doesn't do what you like, then clearly that's bad value. So I think it's less about the actual price and more about the value. And let's face it, so much of value is perceived value. So if you're really getting that much more value out of your Friedman amp versus your Marshall DSL 50, then you're probably going to feel pretty good about your purchase. However, is that difference worth, say, an extra $3,000 or $4,000? That feels like a question for a totally different video. And I think that idea of value, there is a totally objective part of it, and there is sort of the subjective part of it, and it's not clear cut where one stops and one starts again. So yeah, long story short, yes, definitely. The SPX 90 clip that I did a while ago, and I didn't tell you which was which, I deleted that project straight after I did it. So I actually can't remember the exact order, but to everybody who guessed that the SPX 90 was the second clip, you were correct. The first clip, I think, is the H9, and the third clip is probably the Axe FX3 flanger, and I think the last clip is the Axe FX3 delay. The one that doesn't really sound the closest is actually the space modulator plugin. I do remember that. So the SPX 90 is second. All the others sound really good as well. It was interesting to see some people who didn't guess that the SPX 90 was second, and it just kind of goes to show that was the whole point of the video. Am I hyped for the Neural DSP Quad Cortex? I don't know if hyped is the right word, but I am certainly looking forward to trying one out whenever they are released. It was definitely a hyped piece of gear. I don't know if I was so hyped about it because the modeling market is increasingly becoming more saturated, but it certainly looks like a premium product, and it looks like a pretty good value proposition for people who want to get their first high-end modeler. So yeah, I'm definitely keen to try one out whenever they are out. John Petrucci, Terminal Velocity. I must admit, I've not taken the time to sit down and listen to that one. That is on my summer playlist. I have these gigs, which at the time of the videos coming out are tonight, and then I basically have about a month off. So that's gonna be a nice time to actually sit down and listen to some music. I did listen to, I think, the first single off it, and you know, it's Petrucci, it's fantastic. So I've got big expectations for the rest of the album, especially because I think there's some blues stuff or some jazz stuff on there. So I'll be keen to hear what he's doing with that. Following on from that, would I ever consider doing an instrumental album? It's a question that I've answered a few times in this Q&A. It's something I would definitely consider, but it just kind of goes into my feelings about instrumental guitar music. I will normally listen to, say, Terminal Velocity. I'm going to probably listen to it a few times, but I am probably going to go back and listen to Dream Theater. Like, I'll go and listen to Scenes from a Memory or Images and Words or Awake or something like that, because I really like vocal music. I like it when you know, a great singer takes the vocal melody and the lead melody, probably more than I like the sound of lead guitar. Not that I dislike instrumental music, but yeah, it's something that at the moment I'm probably not 100% like committed to doing, so I wouldn't feel 100% right about doing it. But you always get to hear me just play guitar as much as you like on this channel anyway. So I would say at some point I'm going to do it. It just has to be right place, right time kind of thing. The 80s tones that you all listed from last week were really, really cool. And there are a lot that I didn't think about, especially a lot of the new wave stuff. Like, you know, I probably approached that through the lens of like a rock metal fanatic, but, you know, Tears for Fears, The Police, the kind of new wavy sounding Rush stuff, all the early 80s stuff coming out of the UK, like the post-punk stuff. There was some really, really interesting guitar tones. Also all the kind of fusion stuff that was coming out at the time as well. So yeah, you all listed some really awesome stuff. So what I want you to list this time, list your favorite 70s guitar tones. And if I'm going to do a video at some point about 80s guitar tones, then I should do one about 70s guitar tones. So let me know your favorite tones from the 70s. I can think of a lot off the top of my head, but I won't kind of name any just yet. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Key Marcello came up there as well, and just a quick note about Key. He was so good. Can we all just appreciate that as well? I'm a big fan, and I was asked about that. So yeah, I do really like the Europe stuff with Norum, and I really like the Europe stuff with Key Marcello. You kind of can't go wrong. The JCM 800 2210, don't worry, you will hear that thing played really loud very soon for anyone who wants to hear about that. And on the kind of topic of gear, the Black Star Silverline, I don't think I've ever played one of those. We played at the Whiskey A Go-Go in 2014 and then again in 2015, and they had some Black Star amps as backline, but I can't remember what Black Stars they were. They had tubes in them and they had that shape control. I remember them actually sounding pretty good and pulling some decent tones. That was kind of nice, just being able to show up and there's, you know, a half stack on the stage that you can just plug your pedal board into and go. This Q&A has gone really fast. I think because I'm not sitting here playing guitar, I'll have to do some playing at the end. Neck Stickiness. Let me grab my guitar here. Here it is. I should probably plug it in as well at some point, but we'll do that at the end. So the PRS stuff that I play live all the time, they use a poly finish, and I find that the neck doesn't get sticky. Whether that's just because of other factors though, like the humidity or the type of sweat that I emit from my pores. I haven't had a lot of problems with that. I have had that issue before on like Gibson guitars. And one thing you can do is you can kind of mat the back of the neck by using some really fine grade sandpaper or some steel wool. That's popular, but I also feel like this is above my pay grade. So if anybody has any suggestions for neck stickiness, if there's any luthiers out there, Tim from MT Guitars, you're probably watching this. Let us know what you do for stickiness. And anybody else who wants to contribute as well, because yeah, I don't really have that issue with these guitars that I kind of play all the time. So I haven't thought about it for ages. And now it's something I'm going to think about a lot. Yeah, thanks for the question. The Diatronics Stereochorus, the CS5. I've never played a real one, I have to admit. The closest I've ever come is the Eventide H9 has an algorithm in there emulating the tri-chorus called Tricerochorus. The Axifex 3 has a tri-chorus mode in the chorus block, and from memory there's a UAD, like, I can't remember if it's a full tone version, the Turk, T-E-R-C, that 80s rat chorus, or if it's a Diatronics emulation. But I remember that one sounding pretty good. It's like, it's the sound of an era, isn't it? Those kind of, you know, Michael Landau clean tones. It's pretty awesome. On tones as well, I will do a Steve Vai tone or thing at some point. We'll talk about that because I've been listening to some David Lee Roth era Vai recently, and I really like that kind of Jose Modded Marshall thing he had going on. I did do a 5-minute tones video about that, I think, so you can check that one out on the video. Maybe I've already done this. Maybe I should do his like Passion and Warfare era tones. Yeah. Steve's awesome. He was like, I remember the first time I heard Vai, and it was like, he looks a lot like my dad. So that was kind of one thing where I was like, well, I kind of like this guy because he looks like my dad. And then hearing him play, it's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So yeah, Steve, you know, yeah, Steve's so good. Still so good still so good, and he's like in his 60s now, and he's playing as good as ever. So I hope I can play like 1% as good when I'm that age. Have we hit all the questions? No, we haven't. This is the last question. I was asked this by Jim, Solar Guitar Studios. Go and subscribe to his channel as well, because I love his rig. It's so amazing. Basically talking about the Sensitive Sundays videos that I do on this channel. I'm glad they've been received really well again. There will definitely be more of those regularly on Sundays. So, you know, make sure you hit that subscribe button, get the notifications, the bells, all that kind of stuff. You probably don't need to do that because I put out a video nearly every day anyway. I'm sure you'll see it. But can I do some more how-tos? So if you're interested in maybe on like the Tuesday of every week, if I break down what I did in the Sunday video where I'm just improvising over backing tracks, let me know in the video description. I would be more than happy to do that for you all. And that is this week's Q&A. Next week's Q&A is Q&A number 99. So fire some spicy questions at me and I will get back to you all. And then of course the next week is Q&A number 100, and I will try to do some special stuff for that one. But get me some good questions for 99 first. You all stay safe, be excellent to one another. If you're in Perth, you probably still have a few hours to come down to the Ragdoll show at Indie Bar. Do it, get in your car and come down. And I'll see you all next week. Take it easy. Cheers.